This is the podcast in the rough. Raw conversations, real strategies, massive impact. Welcome back to the podcast in the rough. I'm your host, Zebulon Thomas, and this is episode 172. Last episode, I shared my experience working with Tony Robbins and what it was like to tackle these high-stakes creative projects. That opportunity shaped a lot of how I operate today, but another major factor in my career growth has been working with the right brands. Not all brand partnerships are equal, though. It's not just about landing sponsorships or collaborations. It's about aligning with brands that match your vision and that elevate your work, that challenge you to grow. So today in this episode, I'm going to be taking you behind the scenes of my partnerships with brands like Adobe, Canon, and GoScope, what those experiences were like, what they did for my career, and how you can strategically position yourself to work with the brands that truly fit your creative journey. I want you to be successful. I want you to take in this information and really apply it to your life. Because years ago, when I didn't know how to do any of these things, I would just sit there and read books and listen to audio tapes and go to seminars and try to absorb as much knowledge and information from individuals who have failed and found success, who failed and didn't find success but had a lot of wisdom and showed me how to navigate the waters. And that is really what's given me the edge in my business to create the things that I create today. Okay, so now that I've downed a whole cup of coffee and I'm super pumped, awake, and jittery at the same time, I'm gonna try to deliver this episode with some meaningful impact that you can understand, some key takeaways that you can apply, and I hope you really enjoy this episode. First up, I want to talk about my involvement with Adobe. Now, what's cool about this is I started working with Adobe as a consumer, right? Like most of you, I bought Adobe Photoshop, which helped me become a creative genius in creating Photoshop documents. You know, Adobe has always been something amazing, but then I learned that they do other things they have editing software that I started to use, and they have other apps that I use, and all this cool stuff that I use. So partnering with Adobe early on in my career was a no-brainer. What I loved the most about this was that I already used their products and services, and I did believe in what they offered, and I was able to use those tools and softwares that they've developed to enhance and grow my career. So I had this opportunity to work with Adobe on a few projects that they were involved in, and their outreach went out to a lot of creatives. For me, I got the opportunity to edit the Believer video by Imagine Dragons, and then I got to work on the Terminator Dark Fate trailers and commercials. So this was an opportunity that was very new to me because it was the first time I really got to touch professional produced project. For the Imagine Dragons, I was sent all the raw files for the Believer video, and I had to put it all together. I had to tell a story. It was like every scene and all these different angles of the band, and I literally had a blank canvas to work from with all the files I needed, and then, of course, Adobe's tools to bring it all together. So I dived in, and I obsessed over this. The funny thing is, this was the very first time I actually was using Adobe Premiere Pro. Before that, I was using Final Cut Pro X, and I was familiar with Sony Vegas. So when this project came across my desk and this opportunity to really thrive and show everyone what I'm capable of doing with someone else's content as an editor, I dived in. I didn't know how to use Adobe Premiere Pro, but I said, you know what? I got to figure this out. I got to master it, and I only had 3 days to get it done. So the first day, it was tutorials, it was reading, it was diving into the software, and it was using the tools and going, okay, I know how to use this now. Now let's get creative. So I did that. And it wasn't just the first take was the thing. I put together the edit, and then I would look at it, and I'm like, all right, let's refine it, and I'd edit again. And I narrowed it down to about 5 different storylines that the music video would play out to. And from there, I was like, I have to narrow this down to one. And so I did that, and I found the best possible one. I was so proud of that, and literally by the deadline, I was able to submit my project back to Adobe, and they loved it. And so that was my opportunity working with a big brand, a high-level director on a big production with amazing content. And the same opportunity came years later, working on the Terminator Dark Fate trailer and commercial. The only thing different there was that it was a spoiler alert, right? I had all this content that showed the movie that wasn't even out yet, that I was obsessed over the Terminator franchise, and I really wanted to watch this movie. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to edit this. I'm going to have to see pretty much a lot of spoilers, but I also have to capture this and use these scenes to really tell the story, to build the best possible trailer that will make you go, oh my gosh, jaw dropping. I have to see this action-packed film. I got to go to the theaters. I got to do this right now. Where's my ticket? I got to go, right? You're just blown away by it. It was all action-packed. And it was exciting because, again, high-level production, great directors and producers and team, amazing cameras that captured the action. And here I am sitting with all the raw files, and I got to put this together. And I did. I made several different cuts to the trailer. And then I had to go back and, look at the previous trailers, from the 80s and 90s, like how did they promote this? How did they build the original Terminator? How did they promote it? And I was obsessed over that nostalgia and that style. And I said, well, let me bring all this together with that same approach of the nostalgia and that style. And so I started diving in and I narrowed it down and boom. So that started to build my relationship with Adobe even more. And it opened doors to other projects and opportunities that they had lined up. And so it was a great experience. And most of all, besides the experience and the exposure, it really taught me some things and gave me a next level upgrade to my editing. Having worked with action, having worked with music videos, different colors, different themes, different files, different formats, it really helped me know how to edit all of this content to still tell a story, make an impact, and deliver my creative. When I started out as a commercial videographer, actually just as a videographer in general, before I even got into commercial, I picked up the camera and said, I want my work to be known. I want you to be able to identify my work if you saw it in camera without editing. Like that style of filmmaking, that style of capturing a moment, that's a ZT Films. And I also wanted people to identify content that was edited by me so they can say, hey, you know what? That editing style, that's Zebulon Thomas, that's ZT Films, right? Like undeniably. And so how do you create that? How do you carve that out? Well, that's something you have to develop over the years of working with content, of course. So filmmaking, if you want someone to recognize your style, well, you have to develop that after using the camera every day as much as possible. And same with editing. And so that's what I did for years is, for me, how do you capture a scene? How do you light a scene? How do you work with others, right, who are lighting the scene and who's advising you what they want to capture? And then how do you navigate that scene with your own style? For me, it was always a glide camera stabilizer. It's like how I use this thing to flow. And then it's, anyone can use a glide cam and get that, fluidity and grace, if you will. So it's stable and cinematic looking. But then it comes down to angles and how I move left or right. And if I can, right, it's always going to be on my two favorite lenses. If I'm using someone else's camera that have different lenses, well, then it's going to come down to my camera angles and the movement, fast, slow, panning left, panning right, pushing in, pulling back, all these different movements that would get you to think, I think I know this style. But for me, what really identifies my style is the lenses I use. There's only two specific, and that movement. And when you see it, I would hope that you would recognize my style. So it's a 16 to 35 millimeter, mostly shot at a 16 millimeter on a crop sensor camera or a 35 millimeter on a full frame. Then there's the nifty 50. I always use the 50 millimeter. So my shots would go 16 to 35 to a 50. So usually, with the crop sensor, I'm trying to get as close to the 35 wide angle as I can with that lens. With the full frame, I'm at a 35. So I will go between ideally a 35 millimeter to a 50 millimeter. And that is the style that I developed. When it comes to editing, what did my editing look like? Well, it's specific cuts. They cut on the beat. They cut to a certain scene. They capture the emotion, the zoom ins, the zoom outs, a close scene, a tight scene, a far away, a wide open shot. The blending of this, the fact that I don't use a lot of different transitions. I usually use jump cuts, and all my scenes are in motion. Either they're pushing in or pulling back, or they're panning left and then they pan right, or they pan right, and then they pan left, but they don't make you dizzy when you watch it. There's a style to that. On top of that, it's my color grading. If you go a little bit deeper, it's going to be what type of texture will I put over my videos. I like to add a little bit of film grain. I like to sharpen a little bit. I like to pop the colors. These are all things that blend together that create my signature style for ZT Films. And all of this, I was able to create extremely fast by using my camera every day, editing every day, and having opportunities to work with companies like Adobe on these big projects that I can test my skills. And so that was exciting. Moving on to a brand like Canon, which is a brand that fit my creative identity perfectly because I started with a Canon camera, I bought a Canon lens, and I stayed true to Canon, and I believed in Canon the whole way through. At the very beginning, I was looking at like, I want to create these amazing videos. What's the difference between a Nikon and a Canon when it comes to video? And in my mind, I kind of already knew this without actually, investigating. I just said, well, most of the photographers I see, they're using a Nikon. So Nikon must be good for photos. And Canon's got some really good video features that they're pushing. It was at a time where Canon was promoting, video in their cameras more than Nikon. So I was like, well, let's figure out what the difference is. And then I started looking at other creatives that helped me in the game. And I saw that they were using Canons. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go with Canon camera. And there's like, which model do you get? Well, at the time, I was like, which model can I afford? It's like, but then I realized I needed a Canon that would operate for me in the field and be able to use it the way I need to use it. So I started with a Canon Rebel T3i, and it had a pop-out screen, and I was able to use that creatively, and that was my main camera. And then I was able to afford a 16 to 35 millimeter lens. And so I had this Rebel T3i with a great, L glass series lens, and I was good to go. Was it the best? No, but it captured the moment. I was able to pop the colors with the Canon colors. It was amazing, and I was able to work with this, great quality, even though it was crop sensor and it wasn't the best camera. But it was rugged, it was raw, I could take it everywhere, and I was like, let's just do what we can. At the very beginning, when you start out, whether you're working with brands or not, it's really all about being creative, having fun, and learning how to use what you have, not going to get the best camera. You can have the best camera and suck. You want to have the crappy cameras and know how to really get a cool shot and get creative. So it was like, okay, I have this Canon Rebel T3i. I'll go get a GoPro Hero 3 Black at the time, and I'm going to use these two and figure it out. And that's what excited other brands. Plus, I was able to brag about using a Canon. So every time I do something with my video camera, I would always tag Canon, and eventually they would see it and they'd be like, oh, I kind of like this angle. Oh, wait, you know what? You're showing how to use the Rebel T3i in these creative videos under these circumstances and in these environments. We want to feature you. This is fun and exciting. And so that really opened up my opportunities to work with Canon closely. And I started to talk about why you should only use Canon products with the Canon camera. And so I had all these creative videos like, hey, off-market brand batteries used in your Canon camera could cause it to overheat and destroy your camera. If you're ready to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast like a pro, I've got something just for you. The ultimate guide to setting up and growing your podcast. This is the step-by-step blueprint you need to build a successful podcast. From setting up your studio to attracting listeners and making money. And here's how you can get it. Join the Podcast Success Secrets Mastermind. Visit thepodcastintherough.com/learn or head over to buymeacoffee.com/intherough and grab it in the extra section. Don't wait. Grab your copy now and start growing your podcast today. Working with Canon aligned with my creative style, and it was very important for me because I knew that I could trust in this camera. And I knew I had support from Canon, and I knew that they were looking at my content, and eventually I was given the opportunity to do more with them. And so working with Canon wasn't just a sponsor, it was a tool that I already loved and I used daily. That's what made the partnership feel natural. It didn't feel like when I was talking about the camera to all my followers, subscribers, or anywhere I was at with an event or showing off this camera that I was marketing, that I was, selling you and soliciting you. It's like, hey, the proof's in the pudding. Like, this is a great camera. It's going to capture the moment. It's just a quality product. It's a product that I've entrusted in, just like the Glide Cam became my backbone. With the Glide Cam and the Canon put together, I entrusted in that. Just like the microphone. I love Rode microphones. If you haven't experienced Rode microphones, check them out. For me, it was a very budget-friendly beginning thing that started off early in my career, and it stuck with me the whole way. And I was like, I really just love how Rode sounds. And with Rode, I can go into detail with that. That could be a whole episode, but I was able to work with Rode and take this microphone in environments that most videographers weren't doing. We had to capture the moment and noise, and I was able to take these microphones and test their limits and what they can do. And I found the Rode microphones stood out the best. My microphone captured the sound at its highest quality and the crisp sound, and it wasn't blown out or distorted. And so I would take that information and run it back to Rode, and they were like, now I'm getting sponsored by Rode. And it's so much fun because, that expands into, look at to this day, this very podcast. I'm using a Rodecaster Pro. Like, I got Rode microphones, mixers, and like, this is what I use. It's a product that not just fits my cinematic film career, it also fits my podcasting. So that's obviously an easy fit. But now I want to talk about my very first sponsor. My very first sponsor who believed in me when I had less than 100 followers on my YouTube channel. I had less than 50 followers on my Instagram. I had only 100 Facebook page followers. So I didn't have a big social media presence. And this brand overlooked that and said, we love what you create. And yes, we will sponsor you. We want to give you our product, and whatever you create with it, we're going to love, and we're going to market, and we're going to push it. And we're so grateful for it. That sponsorship came early on in my career, and I was so excited about it. And that was GoScope. I had a GoPro, and I saw a few of my other content creators out there on YouTube using in their videos this long pole that held the GoPro, and it allowed them to get closer action shots, not just putting a GoPro on a helmet strap or a chest mount and showing you that view. It was looking back at them, and I reached out to GoScope and I said, I'm a content creator on YouTube. Here's my channel, right? It's not impressive at all, but check out these videos I'm creating. I would love to see how your product can help me create even more creative videos and bring the audience closer to the action, make them feel like they're there. And before I knew it, within like a couple of days, they responded with, yes, what's your address? We'd love to send you our newest product line. And boy, they didn't just send me one, they sent me their entire product line. And so I get this huge box. It's my first real experience of getting a box full of, sponsored gear. And I was like, this is like gold to me. Like, this is better than getting money. This is cool. Open it up. I had all these different boost poles, and they had different lengths, so I can, some were shorter, but they were all rugged. I knew I could beat the crap out of these things because that's the type of videos I was doing, is just rough, adventurous videos. And I had to trust that I can hand it off to someone, an athlete or an amateur who's just running through the woods or jumping off of side of a mountain into water or some stuff, like any crazy stuff, that these things are going to be able to last, and they're easy for them to use. And I just would put the GoPro on it, and they'd go do their thing. And I use this in almost every one of my videos as an extra tool. I was like, all right, I'm getting the shot, but this allows the viewer to feel like they're a part of it because it's coming from the athlete or actor or actress in my videos. It's their point of view. Them holding a camera without obviously worrying about them breaking a camera. And it was awesome. And then years later, they call me up and they say, hey, we got a whole new product line. We're doing some new branding. And they didn't just send me one again, they sent me the whole line again. So it's like, that is a great relationship that obviously I still use their products to today. Imagine that. Here's a company that has created a product that I have never needed to upgrade, not because they sent it to me, but if I would have only kept their first boost poles that they did modify and change and make them even better, those same boost poles that they sent me at the very beginning of my career are still the ones that I can use today. I use their upgraded ones, but I still use these on other projects. Whenever I need them, I have assortment of these things. What I'm saying is they've created a quality product that doesn't need to be bought 50 million times. Like nowadays, you want to create products that break, so they have to buy a new one. Not this. This is not a headache. Amazing brands. You have to align with the brands that you trust and believe in and serve in, not just because you want money or because you want to, please send me this, right? As it took me years to get some of these, some right off the bat, of course. And even some of the big brands I work with now that I'm not going to mention, but they're exciting and fun to work with because there's so many of them. It'd be too much to list right now. And some of these are ongoing. Some of these are here or there. But the fact that I have these relationships with these brands that align with my vision, that I align with them, and I showcase their work by using the tools that they have, or I should say showcase their brand and their products and services by using it in my everyday career, if you will, as a filmmaker. Just getting that first sponsorship was so exciting to me. It just made me feel like I had succeeded or I stumbled across something that was going to work. And this was early in my career when I had no idea where would this take me. I had no idea that ZT Films on YouTube would turn into a career, a full-time career opportunity that would bring myself and my family so many opportunities, so much abundance. And I mean, it's opened doors for me that I would never imagine that I could even get the key to unlock or even try to break through the door. Like, I didn't even know those opportunities were available to me that I could even reach for. All because I just wanted to do something exciting, and I picked up something and I did my research and I said, I want to master this. And then I didn't just automatically reach out. Besides GoScope, these other brands, I didn't reach out to them. They saw the work I was doing and we all kind of came together because it aligned perfectly. And that's the ideal. That's the ideal brand partnership you want, is when you don't have to reach out, but you both are aware of each other. And then eventually you've done your thing so well that they see it and they go, it's time. We would love to work together with you. And that, yes, that's a long-term play. Now, reaching out to your favorite brand, there's nothing wrong with that either, especially if you know they align with what you do and you can align with what they do, then I think it's a great fit and you just have to take the chance. Now, will you always get a yes? Absolutely not. You're probably going to get a bunch of no's. But sometimes these brands will take an opportunity and they'll go ahead and do a little something. And I encourage more brands to do that. If there's people reaching out willing to sample and use your product and talk about it, that is the best PR work you're ever going to get. That's the best marketing you're ever going to get. So take the chance, brands, on these creators. Go even if they're small, because you never know. Someone like me started small. You trusted in me in the beginning. I blew up. I started putting these GoScopes in the hands of celebrities and other big athletes. And I took this product somewhere that maybe they weren't able to go. And so by you just focusing on what you do and then align with the right brands, everything works out well. And yes, you might get paid. You might get some sponsorships that way. But remember, at the end of the day, what is the partnership about? What's it truly about? This brand is giving you this product, or they're paying you this amount of money for what? So they can get exposure, so more people will trust in their brand and buy their products. Okay, well, on the other side of that, you must believe in that brand, accept the money or accept the product, or both, and then share with your family and friends and your followers and your community that you're using this product and that you believe that if they use this product, they're going to have similar results. And that's what really gets people to go, geez, like I could show the GoScope, I could show a Canon, I could show a glide cam, I could show a Rode microphone in my video and never say a word about it. And because of the behind the scenes footage and the main video, people are going to be dissecting that. People who want that product, who will use that product goes, I want that. What is that? Maybe I didn't mention it at all because that's how strong it is that they go, oh, if they look and they do the research, they go, it's a Rode, you've already got them sold. They're looking for it. They're searching for it, spending the time. Like, oh, now which one? Then they might reach out to me and say, which microphone are you using? Which glide camera are you using? Which GoScope are you using? What camera Canon are you using? What lens to get that shot like that? Oh, I recommend this and this. Boom, they're sold. It doesn't matter how much the product costs. They will get it right now. That is the organic marketing and success that I found in my career early on that has made me successful, who has put me in a position in behind the scenes as a network mogul. Like, there's so many people that I know that now, like I said, it's a new business for me. If you listen to the previous episode, that aligning with the right brands throughout my year, my creative projects, I'm excited to bring them on because I know I'm going to be given these opportunities. I just had an opportunity just past weekend that's just mind-blowing. Never thought it would happen. I'm like, what? And so now I'll be working with these high-profile people. I'm like, this is exciting. And guess what? Guess who's going to be right there in the middle of this project with these people that a lot of these brands could not touch, or maybe they're involved in, but it's just the audience that we're going to collaborate with is going to be like, big business. And that's going to be the glide cam. It's going to be my Canon camera. It's going to be my Rode microphones. And you know it. It's going to be my GoScope. It's going to be amazing. By the way, I've never gotten GoPro as a sponsor. Worked with them, but never got them as a sponsor. Never sent me a camera. I wish they would. But it's okay. I'm not jaded because someday I'll earn that respect and they'll give me a GoPro to use or to sample, or at least a discount, right? It's okay though, because I want to earn that. I want to earn that because my work stands out so much that they go, oh, so many bazillion creators in the world, right? Using GoPros. What makes this guy so significant? Something. Let's give him a shot. That'd be cool. But I'm not jaded because I don't have that opportunity yet. It'll come. And when it comes, it's just another opportunity where I can say, yes, I did it. That's cool. Check that off. That's awesome. I want you to think about these things, like whether you're starting out or maybe you're, really successful and you already got a solid foundation underneath you. What brands are really going to align with you? And listen, don't put the wrong brand in your partnership with yourself, because your audience will see the fakeness. They'll see that you've sold out, if you will. You'll learn this over time. I'm giving you a short version of this because this is what I've learned, earned, and developed over the course of my career. So I want you to get this down. But your own journey, you're going to learn this over years. I didn't know this at the very beginning. I didn't think this way. I just knew that I needed some gear, right? And I wanted to hopefully get a sponsorship someday. And it just kind of worked out that way. But now I'm skilled and I know this stuff. I can spot a brand from a mile away and go, oh, this, whether it's a startup or someone who's been in the game for a while, I can take this to a whole nother level. Just give me one. Give me one and give me a week with it and watch what I can do. And then we test it. And the proof is always in the pudding. I put my creative efforts together. We do something, we mix and match, boom, boom, boom. I've spent years creating and honing the skill of storytelling and social proofing and creating a magical moment where you feel like you're a part of the video. So bet on video every time and I'm going to win. Okay, so you give me your product, let me do a video, watch what it does for your business. Boom, you're going to be calling me back right away because it's something I've just done for so long. I just know this. I breathe this. Like, this is me. It's like, this is what I live for. And you can hear my voice, right? Like, I love what I do. But not all the time do I love what I do when I'm working with the wrong people. And you'll learn that over the course of your career. Sometimes you work with the wrong people, just really just sucks your creativity dry and just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you look at him like, wait a minute, why? It's not that I don't want to do this anymore. It's because I'm with the wrong people. And you'll learn. And then you back away and you get someone new and you're like, oh, thank you for, igniting the flame again. Oh, I have hope again. Like, oh, no, yeah, it is. All it is was you're with the right people. I'm with the right brand. I'm doing the right thing. So now you learn to qualify. You learn to look at brands and go, this works. This will work, right? And you sense that from a mile away too. Not every sponsorship or brand deal is the right fit for you. For me, like I said, Adobe, Canon, and GoScope, they all made sense because they enhanced what I was already doing. Adobe allowed me to work on high-profile editing projects. Canon fueled my passion for photography and videography, and GoScope complemented my action-oriented film style. These partnerships weren't about chasing sponsorships. They were about finding brands that naturally fit into my creative process. I want you to create value first, then partnerships will follow. Understand that. Create the value first, then partnerships will follow. One mistake many creators make is reaching out to brands before they've created real value. Learn how to add massive value before you reach out to these brands. Brands want to work with people who are already proving their expertise and creativity. I didn't wait for Canon or Adobe to find me. I was already pushing my limits in filmmaking and photography, building a reputation that made them look in my direction, that they noticed. So if you want to work with the top brands, again, don't just wait for them to sponsor you, for them to talk about it. If you really love the brand, talk about it. Talk about them to everybody. What do you got to lose? Then they're going to see that and they say, well, you were already talking about this. Why don't we just make this a better fit? Show them what is possible with their products before you even pitch a partnership. That is key. Create work that demonstrates your skills at the highest level before you reach out. Think about that. I started creating videos that were just next level, that were creative. I had nothing to lose. And when they saw this with their product all in it, capturing it, around it, about it, it was a no-brainer. So don't forget to let the brand see how they'll fit into your world rather than how you fit into their world, okay? How does their products and services fit into your world? How do you use it? Rather than you calling them saying, hey, I'm a big shot. This is how I fit into your world. Like, give me an opportunity. Let me prove some value, some results, test it out. And if you get something amazing from it, we know it works. It's a good fit. I don't want it if I didn't earn it. Remember that. I don't want it if I didn't earn it. Okay? I'm in my lane. I'm doing my thing. I have to earn it. If you approach a brand partnership as a transaction, you're going to miss out on long-term growth. Instead, I want you to think about focusing on how you can support the brand's mission while staying true to your own creative goals. And listen, supporting a brand's mission might mean that you're really pushing their product more than you're pushing your own brand, and that's okay. And when I first started, I didn't have ZT Films hats and ZT Films shirts. You know what I had? A GlideCam shirt with it on the sleeve and on the chest, right? I had a road shirt that was, medium, and I needed a large, right? I was stretching into this baby, right? But I ran around and I had rode, and it felt good. I felt like a NASCAR driver, right? With all the company brands all over me. I had road shirts, and I had a Canon hat, right? I had a GoScope wristband, which was cool, a little stretchy rubber wristband. And I had a few of those. I'd hand those out, right? And so it was fun because it was like my uniform. And then over the years, I developed this style, and I wanted to showcase myself. So then I was ZT Film shirts, and I had my little, I call it like my, this is my work uniform, right? ZT Films hat, which I represent all the time or everywhere I go. But you best believe that I have a lanyard now that's on my bags that I walk around that have, GlideCam and GoScope and Adobe and Canon, all the different brands that sponsor me or that built my career, on my lanyard. And so it's just a great topic to talk about. Just the other day, because GlideCam was on there and so was Canon, someone was like, oh, I know GlideCam. Oh, I use Canon. Why are they on your lanyard? Oh, because blah, 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 blah. And we start talking about, oh, same here. I got an opportunity 2 years ago. And I'm like, now we're in a conversation, right? Like, we're going to create something different. So we have a different manifesto. And it's just, now we're talking. It brought us together. Two creatives, two different sides of the planet. And now we're going to be doing something cool, right? You never know where that takes you. It's definitely a partnership. It's definitely not a transaction. Okay, that is all I have for you for episode 172. Next time, I want to shift gears, and I'm going to be talking about something a little more important, creative burnout. We all hit it at moments. We've all felt it sometimes. Maybe you're kind of there. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you think or you're worried that you might get burnout from doing something. Are you in that sprint that you don't know when it's going to end, right? Does that really become a sprint then? So, you're just going to keep running. You're on the hamster wheel, right? I'm going to share with you some insight into mental health. I'm going to be talking about a little bit of my journey and how to navigate some of those waters. And I really think it's going to impact you, especially if you're creative and you're working for an entrepreneur or a company, and give you some ways to hopefully safeguard you from burning out. Or if you've already burned out, how to kind of get back into the game, because that's been a tough one for me. So something to think about. Thank you again for tuning into the Podcast in the Rough. Again, if you like this episode, please consider giving it a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leaving a comment. I appreciate it. It would help me reach more listeners. All right, take care. Thank you so much.